Hey, it's me, Rob Ryan. I am back with yet another new episode, a great conversation with Entrepreneurial Thinkers, the show, and a returning alumni, a former guest, a friend of the show, so to speak, Ileana Gonzalez, who is now the Director of Emerging Technology and Innovation at one of our nation's largest retail companies, HEB, out of Southern Texas, and specifically San Antonio, Texas, which is her adopted hometown. She's a proud road runner from the University of Texas San Antonio campus. And Ileana has been involved in entrepreneurial innovation, both cross-border between Mexico and Texas for years and years and years in her young life, and has now joined up with HEB to help drive them, this 120-year-old company with nearly 200,000 employees, she told us about, that does like $50 or $60 billion a year annually in revenue. She is now going to help this 120-year-old company try to forge its path forward for the next 120 years of its existence. We talked about the retail industry. We talked about shifting trends in the grocery industry, kind of in how it's moving in a very specific direction experientially from a service to its clients, customers, users standpoint. But we also talked about internal innovation inside this massive corporation and how she can bring her outside world, multiple time CEO kind of leadership experiences into a massive corporation and help it innovate inside for their workers, or as they call themselves inside of HEB, partners. So if you're fascinated about retail and grocery and kind of where it's going and how you interface with it, because we all do, or if you're curious about Texas and San Antonio, Texas, and its role in the growing economy of the Southwestern United States, or you just want to hear the great story and energy and passion and skill of a proud Mexicana from Jalisco who is now building her future and the future of entrepreneurial economies inside of Texas, then you want to join this episode and enjoy it, hopefully as much as we did making it for you.
We are so grateful to be supported by these community champions: Sales MD, Team Friday, Realist Lab, Kiana Patterson, Diego Chavez, Jer Boucher, Heather Ryder, Janine Sua, Lily Roca, and Steve Kernan.
Hola, hello, hi, bienvenido, and welcome back. Literally welcoming back an old guest today, or welcome to Entrepreneurial Thinkers. As you know, or maybe you don't know if you're just meeting us, this is the show where I get the privilege to have weekly conversations with some of the best and brightest entrepreneurial thinkers across all sectors and segments of society and industry as we come together, hopefully, to try and have this conversation leave the world a little bit better than we found it today. I'm super excited to be joined by a returning alumnus of the show, Ileana Gonzalez, who is now the Director of Emerging Technology and Innovation at retail giant HEB in San Antonio, Texas. Let me tell you a little bit about her and tease a little bit about what we're going to talk about before we meet her here on the show today. Ileana is going to give us a glimpse into kind of the present and maybe the future of retail innovation today. But beyond her current job, we already know her as a young trailblazer who always kind of sees what's possible, not necessarily what's impossible. She's a natural-born leader who's been leading and creating community since her days on campus at UTSA. Shout out Roadrunners. She's a multicultural powerhouse who advocates for fellow women leaders, inspires the generations that are coming up behind her, and has spent years building cross-border and cross-cultural bridges between her home in Texas and her family roots back in Mexico. She's never been one, as I've known her, to sit by and kind of watch emerging tech from the sidelines. And she now sits at the very heart of transforming one of America's biggest industries and biggest retailers, HEB, inside of one of America's fastest growing but historic cities, San Antonio, Texas. So from building entrepreneurial ecosystems to connecting startups and investors, she has spent her career crafting the invisible threads of people, ideas, capital, and opportunity that connect to create real world impact. She's one of my favorite young entrepreneurial thinkers in the country, and she's my go-to insider now when it comes to what's going on in San Antonio and what's going on inside the nearly $13 trillion retail grocery industry. Welcome back to Entrepreneurial Thinkers, Ilya. It's great to have you.
Thank you, Rob. What an introduction. Thank you. I'm
My
excited
pleasure.
to join you. How long has it been? 3 years?
I was just thinking about that, right? I was like, I talk about being an alumnus of the show, and then I don't know, there's that whole time warp post-pandemic, right? Like what was 3 or 4 years ago feels like it was like 6 months ago. So I have no idea.
For
But yes,
sure.
it's been a while. So we've got a lot to talk about. Obviously, as I just teased, kind of the $13 trillion grocery retail industry. We're going to dip in and let you tell us a little bit about what's going on in San Antonio and its current context as one of the kind of the vibrant entrepreneurial economies, not just in Texas, but in the Southwest and in the U.S. But I got to tell you, like, just I'm a weird American shopper in the sense that I shop for my groceries very much like Latin Americans do or Europeans do. Like, I go to the grocery store, which in my neighborhood is a Ralph's that's owned by a big conglomerate called Kroger. I go to the grocery
Mhm.
store probably like 6 times a week. Basically, like
Wow.
I basically go to the grocery store when I'm out on my walks, and I'm
Yeah.
stopping to get, like a European would or like a big city Latin American would. I'm stopping to get kind of my meal for that night and maybe the next day,
Interesting.
and a couple other things. I'm very much no longer in my present life. I used to be the typical American kind of back up the SUV to Costco on the weekends or to your big
Yeah.
local retailer and just like buy a month worth of groceries, put them in the extra fridge in the garage, like that kind of style, right?
Right.
And the funny part about why I bring this story up is because I think it has given me like this front line on a more regular basis to see how the grocery experience is constantly changing in American culture.
Hmm.
And how still it's like still a very human experience at its best, right? But it is also like just changing experience. So my first question to you, just to kind of get us kicked off today, is obviously like the grocery store experience in 2025 is not my mom's grocery store experience, right?
Right.
It's not how maybe even I grew up in the grocery. But tell me, how are people like you and your team thinking more entrepreneurially about the grocery and retail industry in 2025 as you look forward?
There's so many ways that we can go about it, right? Especially as HEB, because we're not just a grocery store, right? We are transportation, we're the supply chain, we're our own creators of our own products, along with so much more, right? Like the supply chain, the warehousing, the supplying of it, the store planning and design, right? We have real estate. And so we have to look at it holistically and then prioritize from there. But how we're looking at it is we're not usually the first ones at HEB to try certain things, but we're certainly not the last either. And so we are waiting on a couple of technologies to kind of come above, right? Everybody thought that walking out and going in 2019 was the way to go for Amazon, right? And it just didn't happen. And so it's
Yeah.
one of those kind of precautions that we take. We are also a privately owned company. And so the way that we think about our own company is very differently because we don't have somebody or a stock market to report to, right? It's all family owned from 120 years. And so how we approach it is just simply very different from any other grocery store.
I love that. And you teased kind of some of these technologies that I see, and then they're like, oh, this is what it's going to be going forward. And then like a year later, it's like, oh, that's not it anymore. And
Right. Especially after COVID, right? Like HEB is known for being so embedded in the community. We're the first ones out when disasters hit. And so we're the first ones that we want to be interacting with you, right? We want to be your family owned grocery store that you go to 6 times a week, right? And
yeah,
talk to
right.
the employees. You know them by first name. We all have our badges. And so we can just, we're human to human connection is something that we
Love
really
that.
value at the company.
I love that. And it's a perfect segue, actually. Great answer. You're a great podcast guest because you just segued me into
Yeah.
my next question. So thank you for that. Right. So as I was preparing for this show and doing a little bit of research on HEB and just thinking about you and what I know of you, like I had this overwhelming question, which is like, how do we innovate, right, inside of a nearly $50 billion in annual revenue company that has 150,000 employees and operations in two different countries? Sorry, like
Yeah.
I would imagine, and we kind of teased this off air before the show, like you would have unlimited resource at your fingertips. But then the other side of me, maybe the more entrepreneurial guy, kind of is thinking like inside of a 120-year-old family-owned company that's got so much culture, like is there occasional friction with kind of the like, well, this is the way it's always been done, right? Or is that part of the value of bringing in someone like you who's younger and has fresh ideas and kind of says like, let's forge some new paths? I'm curious.
Of course. I mean, nothing is easy. And if it was, they wouldn't have brought me on, right? So to your point, it's not just that. It's also, it's such a historical company for so many families, not because we've only been serving them, but because you come in and the badges, and you won't see it in mine, right? Because I'm brand new, but the star actually becomes years of service. And
Okay.
so there's literally people that have been here for 50 years. So you see 50 in there, right? And like, I'm not even that old.
Wow.
So how do I even
Right.
talk to or innovate with, people that have been here, that have been part of the history? The owners know them. The owners ask about their kids. And so it is a little bit of a challenge, but at the same time, like you got to know where you've been in order to know where you're going. And so even my onboarding was, you sit tight, Ileana, and you'll go and meet every single area of the business. So you see me
Okay.
going up the meat plant, the dairy plant, sitting on a truck and driving with a driver, going to the stores. And while you may like people know the store number of every single city, and so like it's
Wow.
just so much more that I had to have to learn, right? Still,
Yeah.
in order for me to be able to tell them this is where we're going, right? And so it's not more about like coming in and I know everything and I'm the disruptor and I know that's like the future, but it's more about like, how do I become a part of that culture to better understand where we're going, right? And so back to the point that we were making, right? Like we are not the other competitors, right? We
Yeah.
are innovating in a way that makes our customers and partners' lives better, not to replace them. And so that's what's
Yeah. That's
different
awesome.
in the approach. So how we innovate is me coming in, learning, knowing where they've been. And at the same time, like you got to create coalitions. And so you were talking about me being a community builder. I'm creating my own community even within the company to make some things happen right here and there. And so, again, you pointed out 120 years old. And so it's been really exciting because it's kind of we've grown faster than we thought that we would. And we have operated in a non-scalable way. And so how do we create the coalition? Because we are seeing it. We all also, because we're so family oriented, we all know that the company's growth and success is based on our own employee contributions. And so
Yeah.
the sense of ownership is so larger than just like it's always been the same way and I'm getting the paycheck and I'm getting out of here. It's more of like
Right.
we're all pushing the same way, in the same direction. Sometimes, some people fall off here and there, but there's always champions that join you in the vision that you have. And so super grateful and thankful, right, of where I am. The people have joined me in a million initiatives at this point and 6 months in of like, hey, we could do this better, right? Or like scalability, like this is not working out. So it's
Right.
been fantastic. It's just the land of opportunity when it comes to
That's
innovation.
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Plaintext Capital. Investing in Web3 and cryptocurrencies isn't about jumping on the latest trends. It's about understanding where the market is headed and why. Plaintext Capital is a digital asset investment firm focused on long-term strategies backed by deep research, backing the best Web3 companies and protocols, and investing in the newest asset classes of the future. They believe that Web3 crypto will drive digital innovation for decades to come, creating significant value for investors. In fact, their team of highly skilled professionals work with institutions and serious individual investors who want clarity in a space full of hype and noise. So if you're looking to cut through the chaos and invest with purpose, Plaintext Capital brings a disciplined, high-conviction approach to investing. You can learn more and meet the team at plaintextcapital.com.
It's so insightful. As I was listening to you, it made me think. And again, I'm just for those that are listening, Ileana has a shared context of kind of entrepreneurial experiences as I, like in the entrepreneurial ecosystems, like interacting with like purebred startup entrepreneurs and ideas and investors kind of at that seed stage level in a lot of different things. She's done a lot of stuff. But in that context, like as I'm listening to you, I'm thinking to myself, what a fascinating way to embed you into the business as a whole, right? Like literally stick you on the truck, go to the farm, meet the guys in the real estate department, like go figure out this, go meet the trucking logistics people, like go meet our procurement people, like all those different things. Because if you think about that, that's not a whole lot different than you and I back in the old days, maybe telling a young entrepreneur in a particular city or state or something like, hey, you're looking for ideas, like go into your community, like go. I used to tell people in Mexico, I'd be like, so before you come back to the classroom tomorrow, on your bus trip from your home to the school, like take a piece of paper and write down like the 10 or 12 problems that you see. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yep.
in a lot of ways, like, yes, it was an introduction to like, here's HEB and here's what we are. But it was also like this kind of perfect opportunity for you, the disruptor, the innovator, to see that was interesting what I experienced yesterday over in that division. Maybe that's something I could help make better. Right. Or maybe so not, again, it's not about problems or it's about opportunities.
Yeah.
And you got to see basically like deeply into, instead of just come in and stick you in a corporate office and say like, okay, yeah, like figure out how we innovate. And you're like, well, I've never even met anybody in the logistics department.
Right.
So how would I know?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like that approach. That is very innovative in its approach.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, 200,000 almost employees, right? So you can imagine like how much more I still have to like learn. And then it becomes the thing that I had been doing previously, right? Like there's so much opportunity that you can go and tackle. And it's just, all these doves that you see, which one am I going to shoot first type of thing, right? And like the prioritization of it, and mostly just aligning to that company's North Star, right? And so that's really, I mean, you can see a land of opportunity, but I think then you fail as a strategist and, director if you just don't know which one you're going to prioritize to continue to make those waves. And then, more of like a larger strategy than just like a one-off here and there project that I'm trying to tackle. It's like, what is the overall strategy for myself for 5-10 years to come in order to get that store of the future, right?
Yeah.
Concept that
That's
you were talking about.
That's a great way to put it. And I was going to say, kind of my next question is a little bit of an observation on from my experiences, and therefore it was my curiosity, right? Like, this is just a super generalization. This is not a comment about like HEB or Central Market, which is another company or a brand that you guys own,
Yeah.
right? But just it seems in general, as I experience different grocery stores and different retailers, like more broadly here in Los Angeles, like upscaling, kind of this whole idea of like it's more of a premium experience, right? And we all know the names of some of the super bougie, right,
Yeah.
particular markets, and they all kind of now start to feel and look similarly, right, as far as like how you present to the consumer. And I'm guessing that like this idea of the experience of being in the retail location or the grocery store is part of the strategy of the industry to differentiate. And again, I'm not going to put this on you alone because you've only been in the industry for a little while, right? But like from what you've picked up, what you're listening, what you're hearing, and you don't have to share any secret strategies of HEB going forward, but like, is there a move that says like the industry winds up with kind of more boutique, smaller premium experiences, and then maybe some bigger kind of mainstream, mid-market, working class types of store? Like, is that just my perception, or is that kind of something you're hearing that's maybe where the industry is going? We create these sub brands and these sub markets that are all owned by still HEB or Kroger in this case on the West Coast.
Everything changes, right? And so I can tell you HEB explored the plus version of HEB. So everything's bigger in Texas, right? And so in the 90s, we opened up the plus stores. And so that included like technology, and it was just like, extra. We stopped those concepts. And so everything shifts. We're seeing, right, Amazon open up the little grocery store, European style, right, where you can just walk out in New York. But that's New York, right? Like, who has a car to be putting a million things in the back of their truck, right? And so
Right.
it's just the thing of the market that we're adapting to on how we're strategizing. And again, it's like who
Interesting.
we are, where we are, who we serve, because not every HEB is the same. I can tell you that we opened up the Dallas market just a few years back, and the way that we discovered things is we went into customers' households and we lived with them for a week. And so we lived
Wow.
with them for a week, and then that way we knew what spices they cooked with, what type of food, because then that way we want to be able to put it as a repository instead of you having to go to the mom and pop, right? Like different shops for you to get that one spice, right? And so
Right.
that's the way in the personalization level that HEB goes through for new markets and our customers. It's more about them more than us and what we think it should be.
I love that. I love that, we're 15 minutes in or so to a conversation about innovation and whatnot. And we're really actually talking mostly about human experience and not so much
Yeah.
about and not so much about technology.
Right.
Right. Which
Yeah.
is, the old guy in me is like, okay, that's cool. I love technology. But at the same token, like I don't like technology at the cost of
At the same time, you're the one going 6 times a week for some reason.
and the guys in the deli know my name and they're like, oh, hey,
Right.
Rob, how are you? How's your walk going? And that to me is comforting because it throws me back to like when I was a little kid and I would be
Mhm.
on my mom's arm and my mom would know the
Right.
butcher and knew the, but also to your point that you just made, interestingly, right, is like my mom's experience was still, you went to this store for produce because their produce was great. You went to this store for meats
Mhm.
because their meat was better and their butchers were great. And then you didn't buy your perishables at that store because they were, and so there was this fragmentation that happened in the experience, which, that's a pain in the ass,
Right.
like from a consumer transit standpoint. So that's fascinating.
Totally.
I love that. I don't want to, I'm going to press a little bit on the technology. I don't want to ask you to,
Yeah.
again, share any secrets. You don't have to do that. That's not what this
All
podcast is
good.
about. But I am curious, right? Like when it comes to maybe and maybe it's not just about HEB, maybe it's what you're seeing coming in the industry when we're talking about better technologies, right? Or service innovations that might be coming. And even where like AI fits into these discussions, right? Because AI fits into every discussion. I'm curious, right? Like I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs about AI lately, and it's kind of like we're either going to get the Jetsons or we're going to get Terminator, right? We're either going to get like life is going to be made better or the robots are going to replace us and we're going to die. So in this industry at HEB, are you seeing some particular cool innovations around technology that like we could get excited about as consumers that we might see in the next 5 or 10 years? Or like what's the little bit of a crystal ball, if you could?
Yeah, of course. AI is playing a part in the supply chain, right? In the forecasting of products, in the forecasting of trends, right? The marketing side of things. And so it is impacting retail. And then the more that I see it, is just, AI is just going to be learning and personalizing your experience based on your shopping from your app, right? And then uniting it to your receipts in the store. That way it all lives in one place. But at the same time, right? If you opt in to share some of those technologies, right? I am seeing that once you receive your receipt with all the products, then you're also getting, what do you call them? Recetas. Um,
Like coupons
no.
or
Like for you to cook, right? The instructions.
recipes.
Recipes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, like, you would get recipes, right? It's like, hey, you just recently bought, jalapenos and ground beef. This is what you can make, right? All of that personalization is something that we're seeing with AI, and it's just like machine learning. Also, there is going to be some, upselling. It's just like, hey, your trends are this. What about this shopping cart? And kind of like creating it for you. There's so many different ways to shop around, right? From the personalization on your app to the personalization maybe of like knowing where you are in the store, right? To then ping offers immediately of like, hey, this is a coupon, to your point, right?
Yeah,
Etc. So yeah, AI is just going to get to know us a little bit more in order to personalize that experience. But then when we talk about, we call our employees partners. And so to, make the partners experience better is just going to be able to know the status of your store, and then AI is now going to give you a checklist of what it is that you need to do that day to make it better or make sales, or hey, this one aisle is making so much better than the other one because in the end cap you put this type of product. Why don't you try now this product? Or hey, this is trending on TikTok, right? So it's just kind of learning for us because right now we're relying a lot on just like the people in charge of the store.
sure.
And while we love that, right, you can only scale so much. Or if that person's out, then are you out of that person's
Right.
knowledge? And so,
Yeah, that anecdotal observational stuff that's like, oh, I know what's sold on that end cap
exactly,
because like I've been, but like you said, maybe they missed or they're on vacation or they just had a bad day or they just didn't observe it. But
exactly.
AI and or machine learning software, those types of real time
Yeah.
databases around inventory and inventory management, I can imagine That's really important. It's funny.
Huge.
It's funny. It's funny. My own bias, obviously, I'm the interviewer and I write the scripts. So like my
Yeah.
bias comes through in my questions, right? So I just realized as I was listening to that answer, how much innovation and how much of your opportunity is, let's call it inward facing. Right. So like I'm
Hmm.
asking questions from the consumer standpoint, right? From the I walk into the grocery store guy point of view. You're not only charged with innovating for those people, you're charged with innovating for the small cities worth of employees that you have. Like you
Yeah,
said, almost 200,000 employees, and figuring out how you can help them to be the best versions of themselves, which then of course creates a better consumer experience for me. I honestly hadn't even thought about it from that point of view. That's incredible. That could be an innovation responsibility in and of itself. It's just like employee
totally.
innovation. We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Haney and Company. You know, we all know that in today's complex financial landscape, having a trusted advisor can make all the difference. Since 1960, Haney and Company has been providing comprehensive accounting services to a diverse range of clients, from small businesses to large corporations. With nearly 400 professionals across 13 locations, they offer services in tax, audit, business consulting, and client advisory. In fact, their commitment to excellence has earned them recognition from Accounting Today and Forbes magazines. At Haney and Company, though, it's not just about balancing books. It's about building lasting relationships based on trust and mutual growth. So visit HaneyCPAs.com. That's HaneyCPAs.com to learn how they can support your business's financial journey.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So we call them partner tools, right? Partner experience, what it looks like. But yeah, I mean, we go from the very good that's worked out so far Excel sheets over to just having a chat that knows exactly what my sales were yesterday. What was the most sale item, instead of me having to pull an entire report and me as a human kind of put. So again, we're here to supercharge, not get rid of, right? Our employees. How do we do more with less?
I love that. You haven't been there very long. You talked about it, 6, 7, 8 months, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Um, what has it been as an employee? So this is a little chance for you to kind of brag on your experiences at HEB as a newbie, right?
Yeah.
Like what's it been? What's it been that you see the expert innovator, disruptor, competitor of you that has made or that makes HEB such a standout company? Like, what about your experience? What have you noticed that you're like, this is why HEB is so successful. This is why they are been so good.
Yeah. Right from the get-go was, this is not a tech bro culture. This is a tell me about your family, right? And so in all of my meet and greets to meeting the entire right business, it was, are you married? Do you have kids? What are your
Of
dogs'
course.
names? Right. And
I was gonna
so
say, what are you
that's
talking about your dogs? Exactly. Yes.
yeah, like that's what makes it stand out. It's like we approach it from a human standpoint, not in transactional, which I think in nowadays we just miss it so much on caring about who's talking to you, you know? And so that's something else that I think, community builders just like you always ask me like, how are you, amiga? And like, I saw you did this and it was from a human standpoint. It was not transactional to I want to get them to my podcast and that's it. It was like we've known each other now for a few years through just Twitter, right? But I think what
Exactly.
continues to make that click between humans is the human aspect. And so I think that's why they're so great. And that's why everybody is bought into HEB, because HEB is bought into their own families. And so you see, the big trucks moving because of the floods of Texas, right? Or Harvey hitting. We were the first ones that put. And so that's something that like comes from the family, even of like, how do we just give back and take care of Texans? So that's what makes it a standout company.
Terrific. That's amazing. You are a proud Mexicana American. We talk about this all the time, right? You have
Yeah.
family roots, and we have family roots back in Jalisco.
Yeah.
I noticed as I was doing my research, HEB's only presence outside of the state of Texas, if I read it correctly, is in Mexico. So
Correct.
talk to me. Tell me, what is the unique opportunity that HEB sees in Mexico?
Yeah, so we opened the HEB Mexico about like 22 years ago. And so actually the family sent Howard but down to Mexico, and he moved to Monterrey for 20 years to open up the entire Mexico division. And so we started, the first store was Chipinque, right by the park, right? And so from Monterrey, we have just expanded, right? And so we have now 86 stores in Mexico. And just again, like I think it goes back to that concept of being your local grocery store, right? But that gives you everything. And they're just so like, they just love Mexico, the culture. I mean, his kids even grew up there, right? And like he brought his family, like he was bought in 20 years. And so that experience was amazing. And so I did get to meet already Howard because he heard about like my story and everything. And so we are going down to Mexico soon. And so being able to also cross-pollinate that innovation, right, from two different countries, same company. So the opportunity is huge, and they've just continued to expand. And I think the southernest the store that we have is Querétaro, Mexico. So we haven't even gotten to my own home state just yet.
Right yet, yeah. But I imagine there will be. You'll be calling on Cindy Blanco Ochoa when you get to Jalisco, so you can build those expansion bridges. Well, and then we'll have Cindy on the show to talk about that deal.
Hopefully,
that's awesome. All right, so you just alluded to. I want to mention the family story and then kind of transition, talk a little bit about San Antonio. So HEB literally is, as you just said, it's the initials of Howard E. Butt, who was the youngest son of the founding mother, the woman who opened the first local mercado, basically, that was headquartered back in San Antonio. And I got to tell you, when I was doing this research, I was kind of pleasantly excited and surprised, as you and I talk about a lot, that like, hey, there's a founding woman story here. Like, I love that, right? Like, this is a great story. But as listeners who remember our previous episode where you visited with us prior, right? You've been a leader in building up the entrepreneurial economy of San Antonio for most of your life, right? Like your young adult life for sure. So I'm curious, like HEB is a great example of like a mega corporation that is an anchor of the community and a community service leader and a giver of everything to its employees, its partners, as you say. But talk to me like more generally about San Antonio, like 2025. We haven't talked about San Antonio in a few years. What are some of the big strengths and/or what are some of the big challenges of building upon this vibrant entrepreneurial economy in San Antonio right now?
Yeah, I mean, we've had incredible growth in Texas, right? The last 5 years after COVID. But San Antonio has the strength of, again, right, being a big city that feels like a small city because you're able to connect with whoever it is that you want within probably like the fourth happy hour, right, that you go to. And so we have big companies, right, like Valero, we have Whataburger still down here, we have HEB, we have USAA. And so all those big corporations are such an economic development engine, right, for the city. I think what we're excited about too is just we are getting a lot of really big bets on our downtown. So we didn't really have that much. Everybody knows the Riverwalk, right? But for locals, we know the Spurs, but an arena got built on the east side, wanting some revitalization that just never happened. And so right now we're having a really big bet and a community vote November 4th, actually, for us to be able to fund a new entertainment arena or area in downtown, right by the tower, right, of the usual San Antonio skyline. So right by the tower, it would connect to our Hemisphere Park, which was one in the 1900s parks initiatives from one of the mayors. And so now we're getting moved the Spurs to downtown. There's one of the land bridges going over the highway that then also connects to the Alamo Dome where UTSA plays football and multiple concerts. There's also like baseball stadium in the same area, parks. And so it's just a whole revitalization even of downtown in an area that we care about, not from an events and entertainment standpoint solely, but because we want to attract more companies, right? We want to attract talent that want to live here because young people want to live in fun cities that are walkable, that are able to,
Right.
do multiple things from a few blocks, right? And I think Austin's downtown success shows you on how they attracted Oracle, Tesla, Google, Facebook, right? That's something that I'm really excited about for San Antonio because it's not just the Spurs, it's further than that because we want to be able to, for companies to see that their employees can live here, have fun, and grow a family, make even, grow their generational wealth because real estate is still so affordable in San Antonio. So that's something that's happening right now. And obviously, I was, lucky to be able to get this opportunity with HEB, but not so many do, right? So many young people just go and work for a company that's just somewhere else. And so the more that San Antonio builds when it comes to entertainment, the more that people are going to want to live here. And that just means, more wealth, more salaries, more jobs that then translate into supporting small businesses, services, the restaurant around us. And so it's bigger than just the Spurs, right? As multiple people put it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I had not heard. So the Spurs might move from where they play now to this, hypothetically, to this new arena entertainment district area, which
Correct.
seems like kind of a trend around the country, right? Is like when I was growing up, every sports owner built stadiums with massive parking lots out in the middle of nowhere, and you just drove to them, right? And now there's this renaissance of like, okay, wait a minute, we've killed our downtowns. Maybe we need to revitalize them again.
That's exactly what's happening. Yeah.
That's
And then
incredible.
also downtown, UTSA actually just merged with UT Health. So making us the
Okay.
third largest research institution in the entire state, right after UT Austin and Texas A&M. And so it's huge for San Antonio, right? Because if UTSA is successful, the entire city is, because then that means more talent is graduating, right? Now we have a medical school, right? Now we have a PT school. Now we have dentists. Now, as part of UTSA, we have the top data science school also in the country, the top cybersecurity program. And so a lot of it is happening. Now what we're just missing is just more companies moving so we can keep our talent here.
Yeah, but it's funny. My next question was going to be like, since we visited each other last time, you served as the CEO of an organization called TechBlock, which was which is an advocacy and kind of community economic development consortium tasked with leading the renaissance of San Antonio's tech sector. And I was going to ask you to talk more about that, but you literally just gave the commercial. Like everything you just said was essentially like, "Hi, I'm the former CEO of TechBlock, and this is my view of San Antonio." So now let me ask you the harder question, like, as you served in that role very vigorously, I watched online, you did some incredible things. You created some incredible events. You scaled up things that obviously leaders inside the community before you had wanted to do, but maybe hadn't had that energy. That you have just a unique energy and a drive and a belief in yourself. I'm curious, were there a few lessons that you took away from your time as the CEO of TechBlock? Good or bad, right? But were there a few lessons that you learned that, like, okay, these are the keys if you're going to build a great entrepreneurial city? It might just be a lot of what you just talked about, but is there anything else that you kind of specifically took away from that role?
Oof, so much. I am super grateful still for all of the people that just joined me. Basically, people love the brand, but it was more of like, who's leading it? And so at the beginning, it felt a little bit of like, prove yourself. But there's people that literally just joined me because they were excited about my mission, my vision. And that's what it feels like as a CEO, even of a startup, right? It's just like, you get to tell people what you think that the future is. And some people join you and some people don't, right? Just like those investor calls that you probably get more no's than yes. Yeah. But you do the same for community. And so just kind of sticking to those and giving it more emphasis to the positive and the supporters more than the negatives, because obviously there is that person, right? That like it's their own insecurities shining because you don't have it and you're still building more. And so not paying attention to the people that have them and more of the people that are joining you and wanting to build with you is something that was just super successful. Also, I think people like underestimated how much fire I get from no's. And so, yeah, I loved it when people said no, because then that means it's yes, right, for me. And so we built a lot of really incredible things from those things. So thankful for those that supported and thankful for those that didn't as well. So, yeah,
My
there's
dad,
some.
you may appreciate this. My dad used to tell me when I was even younger than you, when I was way back when getting started my career. My dad was like, "It's not no, it's just no for now."
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
It's just like every no, he's like every no is temporary, right? And I
yeah,
was like, it was a huge lesson for my career. I'm
for sure.
curious. We talked about early on. We talked about kind of your experiences, my experiences with like seed stage level innovators, people who are innovating new products and services that we hadn't even thought about before.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a little bit back to HEB for a second? Is there a place, like, is there an entry point, a collaboration, partnerships, test bed, pilot programs, kind of, is there a place for young innovators around technology, services, companies, software, et cetera, in the region to work inside of HEB? Like, is there eventually someday going to be like an HEB innovation lab, which will work with local startups, and maybe there's stuff that HEB winds up using someday? Is that part of the roadmap?
We are so grateful to be supported by sponsors like our friends at Chisos Capital. Everyone knows that raising capital is hard. And frankly, finding the next pool of entrepreneurs to get access to as limited investors is sometimes impossible too. Do you have a big idea, a dream you're building, but you're struggling to find early funding? Well, Chisos is changing the game for founders, creators, athletes, and investors. Whether you're launching a startup, growing your creative brand, or training for the big leagues, Chisos backs you. Chisos uniquely invests up to $100,000 in people, not just products, whether they be entrepreneurs, creators, or even athletes. With their unique CISA model, convertible income share agreements, founders get flexible funding without giving up equity or ownership, and investors get attractive returns and great upside with less risk. Chisos works for both investors and the people bringing our world to life. If you're seeking access to a truly diverse pool of deals, or you're someone who feels overlooked by the VC game, Chisos is ready to back you. So apply now at chisos.io.
So in 2019, right before COVID, we had planned the technology hub to be built at headquarters. But obviously, that took a turn with COVID and us trying to pivoting, get curbside going. It's not in the plans right now. We do have a technology hub up in Austin. But yeah, it's something that I'm hoping that we have. And if not, partner with a local one, maybe even TechBlock.
Right. Ironically, I mean, that would be the easiest choice of all time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So back to San Antonio for a second, and then I've got one kind of last personal question before we get to our closing segment.
Yeah.
In the building of this, and again, building upon, right? I mean, there was great building blocks and amazing people that were building San Antonio to become what it was for decades, right? But you came in and you, as you say about your work inside of HEB, you supercharged maybe the entrepreneurial development of San Antonio.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, in those roles, you have to work with private sector people, corporates, investors, stakeholders, corporations, nonprofits, and the government, right? And I'm just curious, I've never really heard you talk about that. So I want to get your insights into, like, what is the reality of that when you're trying to build up the entrepreneurial economy of a city or a place? Like, what is it like, or what guidance would you give everybody who's trying to build up their city or their place about the value of working with the government and partnering with the public sector, and not thinking about it like private sector is the only people that can innovate, public sector is bad, but instead finding kind of a common ground? Like, what's that like?
I mean, there's so much success that you can have with that, way of approaching things. But I've been super grateful that ever since I was, student body president at UTSA, I was able to learn higher education, right? Which is public, UTSA. But then at the same time, right, like we had really big supporters like Carlos Alvarez, right? The owner of Shiner Beer. And then we had Tom Frost from Frost Bank, right? And so I was able to kind of interact with those donors at the same time with like admin. And then I there's the story that, right, that like I was one of the first, if not like the second phone banker for the then councilman that then became mayor, right? And was mayor while I was CEO of TechBlock like 10 years later, right? And so starting early is one of the advices. Like, if you want that, then you just got to start early, because then, I'm barely 30 and I can already say, oh, yeah, like I know, Ron from like 12 years ago, which is like
Right.
crazy. So start early, and start getting your feet wet. And I think the other thing, and I haven't really done it in a while, is just get lunch with people. Honestly, like
Mm,
you'll be surprised what comes out of one lunch with one person that just loves to talk about their own experience, and it's just the wealth of knowledge that you absorb from people. Uh,
yeah,
yeah, and
that's great
so
insight. It's so much. I mean, not surprisingly with you, right? It's so much about the relationships. Right. It really is. I mean, so like you said, whether it's in the role of a CEO of an organization in town, if it's a management level role inside of a massive, huge global corporation, or it's the kid running for student council at UTSA, right? Like you've always valued, and I get it now. It makes sense why the family culture of HEB appeals to you as strongly as it does, right?
yeah,
Because fundamentally you're like, oh my God, these are people that value human relationships like I do.
yeah,
This is awesome, right?
yeah.
They're not just tech bros who want to talk about AI or crypto or whatever the next thing is going to be. Like they
And
want to
so
talk
many
about.
times, yeah, so many times I felt like I was the DEI checkbox, and like I'm
Sure.
not just another checkbox. Like I'm actually here because I'm qualified to be here, etc.
Yes.
Right? So, yeah, just completely different. And back to your question, right? And like TechBlock's been very, very supported by public and governments, and so the county, we're super thankful. The previous county judge that was previous also mayor, he was a super supportive of TechBlock from the beginning days. And then it carried on to the new county judge, and then the mayor, the city council. Actually, the first executive director of TechBlock is now a councilwoman. And so, yeah, connections are everything,
Yeah.
and people go everywhere. UTSA, to the day, like one of my ex-board members' kids decided last minute to go to UTSA. And I called, up the not admin, but he's head of governmental affairs. And he connected
Yeah.
me to like the admissions guy. And we were able to
That's
see if
awesome.
the kid could get in, And so it's just
Right.
those connections that make the world go round, and super grateful that I have had
100%.
been, able to build them.
100% true. And you're just getting started. And that's kind of my last
Yeah.
like little personal question, right? Like you're
Okay.
still, and I say this with all due respect because you're so
Yeah, you're
accomplished, but
good.
like, you're still so young, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like if you're basically the age of my daughter or below, like you're still a kid to me. I say that again, super
Yeah.
professional respect, right? But as friends, you're still so young and yet so accomplished as a leader. So you've got like a long life and a career ahead of you, knock on wood, right? So I'm curious, what are you beyond your job at HEB, or like what piques your interests right now? Like what are things, it could be about work, it could be about the industry, it could be about life. Like what are a couple things that you get excited about? Because that's going to tell me kind of what I think you'll be working on or doing 5, 10, 15 years from now. Like, so what are you curious? What kind of gets you fired up nowadays?
Personally, I've lost my job and I wouldn't work where I didn't like it. So like my job is just like such like my life, and I'm passionate about it. I'm taking a little bit of a step back. Like I have not gone to like happy hours or anything. I've kind of stayed away from like I got really, really tired, like just being out there for people and Zooms and Zooms.
Yeah.
So right now, I'm really excited. I get board time, Rob, honestly. And I know it's not the answer that you were looking for, but
I love that answer. That's
recharge.
you.
Yeah. And so, yeah, recharging. My parents moved from Houston to San Antonio last year. And so we've been able to just dedicate also a lot of time with them. Like we take them out, right, for restaurants. We took them to Alejandro Fernandez, which my previous board chair had really nice seats because he's an exited
Nice.
founder. And so he didn't know who Alejandro Fernandez was and was like, give him to me. So I took my parents to that. So we're just enjoying life
It's
now.
awesome. A
Not that
great
I didn't
job.
before, but I have a lot
No,
more.
no, it's good. But like what I enjoy, and thank you for being so honest, vulnerable, right? Because what I really enjoy about that answer, and you said it kind of before, the truth is, like, and people who listen to this show know this about me and about the guests and the guests who are repeat guests. Like, I always say this, and sometimes you guys don't appreciate it. Like, I really don't care what it is you're doing for your day job. Like, I really don't care what it is you do for work. Like, because I know if we maintain a relationship long enough, you're going to do multiple things, and there will always be something. And so, like in this case, right? I'm sitting there and I'm making lists of what are the things that I'm curious about. What are the areas of the industry or our system of government? So, like, what is it that I'm looking at that I'm saying, like, I want to learn more about how we're thinking entrepreneurially about these problems or these opportunities in our society. And I write lists, and one of those lists was like retail and groceries. And like, how does that work? And and then I'm like, oh my God, I could just have Ileana on. And then this is also a great chance to talk. So like 10 years from now, if you could be the mayor of San Antonio, I'll want to talk to you then, but we'll talk about something different then, but we'll also tie it back to who you are, which is awesome. And I love that. Like, the thing that's that you're excited about is to have a great job with an incredible company that does good work in its community. You have the now 10, 12 years of great relationships and credibility in your community. And then you can just now invest some time and energy into family, into your husband, into the dogs, into your parents, into your friends, right? Like, and just and live the San Antonio experience that way for a bit. And then again, you're going to continue. You're only 6 months in. You're going to continue to grow in your impact and how HEB is going to impact you, and you're going to impact it. And that's exciting for HEB. I can tell because I know you long enough, like longer than them. They should be excited that they've got you because you're going to help them become a more thoughtful company. You're going to help them. I'm sure the family members want this company to last for another 120 years, right? And the only way you do that is by continually readjusting and adapting to the markets and the economies and whatnot that's present today. So one last question: in any industry, when you're talking about innovators or entrepreneurs, right? Like, to create meaningful relationships or meaningful partnerships that accelerate their projects, right? Or that build consensus, as you say, what are the first kind of 2 or 3 things? What are a couple things that those innovators should be doing to build those types of meaningful partnerships in their communities?
Really easy. You got to ask them about them and what drives them, the same way that you asked me towards the end, and attach yourself to their mission and vision the same way that they'll eventually attach to yours as well, right? Or try to like build upon and create that coalition. So common ground, and then just that personal, one click that you can have is key.
I love that. And again, like, what's old is new again, right? My dad used to say to me in the late 1980s when I was starting my career, and he was like, "Okay, you're going to walk into some business owner's office," and back in those days, everybody was in the office. He's like, "You're going to look behind them, and you're going to see pictures of their kids, and you're going to make notes in your head. Like, does the kid play soccer or football or basketball? Like, does the dad like to fish? Like, is there a degree on the wall from a certain university, right?" And you're going to start to find those things, and then you're going to sit there and ask them what their goals are, what their objectives are, what they want to accomplish, and let them talk.
Yeah, for sure. And that's
right. Which
it.
Maybe that's no surprise why I eventually became a professional podcaster, because basically I'm just doing the same thing my dad taught me to do 35 years ago. This has been, you've got a busy day. You got to go change the world of retail and groceries in San Antonio today. So I don't want to keep you. This has been an absolute pleasure. One, selfishly, it's been great to see you and see and hear you live and hear your energy. 2, thank you for educating us about the retail industry and the complexities and the opportunities of it from inside of HEB, which is, again, one of the country's biggest companies in this space. And I'll be super eager now and excited to kind of watch. We don't have any HEB out here in California, but I'll be super excited to watch and see HEB now in my notifications to see what you guys do in the coming years. And next time, the funny thing is, actually, I think the last time I was in Texas, I think I actually shopped at a Central Market.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is like one of your sub brands, I think. Right. So there you go. So I've actually invested some money into HEB over the years. So there we go.
Great.
Thank you. This was such a pleasure.
Thank you.
Are there any ways, quick follow up, just to make sure, we'll put HEB in the show notes, we'll put links. if people want to follow you or connect with you or follow or connect with any information about HEB, is there websites or social media handles that they should follow?
Yeah. On HEB News, it's HEB Newsroom on Instagram, and then myself for innovation on LinkedIn. So Ileana Gonzalez. For some reason, I have a follow button instead of a connect, but yeah, either or work.
I think we all have that follow button now. I think LinkedIn wants us to have like followers instead of just actual
For
humans.
some reason.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I can't keep up with that. I'm like, yeah, okay. So we'll put that in the show notes. Thank you very much. This is awesome. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Bob. Yeah.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did recording it. As always, we thank you so much for listening and watching. Today's show was recorded here in Los Angeles and produced by the incomparable Deanna Bernal in Mexico City. You know, we can only grow this show by you listening and sharing the show with friends. So please find, like, follow, subscribe, and share our audio-only show on Spotify, Apple, or via any other popular podcasting platforms, as well as find the video version of our show now available on our YouTube channel over at Entrepreneurial Thinkers. And of course, you can follow along on our various social media platforms for fun and informative clips and content at Entrepreneurial Thinkers, wherever you can find us. And if you'd like to connect with me, you can find me at I Am Rob Ryan on just about any social media platform. Gracias, thank you, and have an awesome day.